We live in a world obsessed with remedies, pills, procedures, and promises wrapped in glass bottles or offered by external authorities. Healing, we are told, comes from something or someone outside of ourselves. For centuries, this idea has permeated not only our medical systems, but our very sense of identity. The body is seen as a machine to be fixed, the mind a problem to be solved. The soul, if acknowledged at all, is treated like a forgotten relic. But what if this entire paradigm is an illusion? What if the most powerful medicine we seek isn't found in a prescription but in perception? The moment we buy into the belief that we are broken, we surrender a piece of our power. And when we assume that the solution lies out there, in a supplement, a guru, or a diagnosis, we disconnect from the subtle, sacred intelligence humming inside of us. That inner knowing, that quiet field of coherence, is often drowned out by the noise of consumerism disguised as self-care. Yet deep down, many of us feel it. The sense that no matter how many wellness routines we adopt, there's still something unresolved. A dissonance, a whisper that says, "This isn't it. There must be more." We become seekers, eternal students of healing, reading the next book, taking the next class, fixing ourselves again and again. But chasing wholeness from a place of inadequacy is like running toward the horizon. You never arrive, because the moment you believe healing exists somewhere beyond you, you reinforce the very wound you're trying to mend. This is not to say that medicine or therapy or guidance are wrong. They have their place. But what we're exploring here is not a rejection of those tools. It's a recentering of the source, a return to inner authority. Because when healing begins within, everything else becomes an amplifier, not a replacement. Quantum healing doesn't ask you to deny the world. It invites you to see it differently. Through the quantum lens, everything is vibration. Your thoughts, your organs, your traumas, your hopes. And because everything is energy, everything is influenceable. The key is not to fix the external circumstances, but to shift the internal frequency. You don't chase health, you embody alignment. But first you must ask, what stories have I been living under? Who told me I was unwell? What subtle agreements have I made with limitation? Our healing is delayed, not by the absence of medicine, but by the presence of distortion. Distortion in how we see ourselves, distortion in what we think we deserve, distortion in the language we use to describe our lives. Have you noticed how often we say, "I have anxiety," or "I'm depressed," as if these were permanent traits? Words are not just expressions, they are programs, spoken loops that reinforce patterns in the energy field. Even science confirms that the observer changes the observed. In the quantum world, the mere act of looking alters reality. So what happens when we observe ourselves as lacking, sick, or stuck? We collapse those possibilities into being. But the inverse is also true. When we hold ourselves in loving awareness, without judgment, without urgency, we shift the frequency. We open the doorway to new timelines. So pause for a moment. Where in your life are you still chasing something you don't believe you deserve? Is it love, peace, vitality? Could it be that the pursuit itself is the very thing that confirms your unworthiness? That you are unknowingly using effort to escape your own power? The first step toward quantum healing is not to fix anything. It is to witness, to come back into stillness and observe the architecture of your inner world. This isn't about denial. It's about presence. When you stop frantically seeking answers, you begin to hear the wisdom that was always there. You realize you are not broken. You are patterned. And patterns can be shifted. There is something astonishing that happens when you take your attention away from the noise and place it gently on the breath, the heartbeat, the space between thoughts. You enter the field, what mystics call the inner sanctuary, and physicists might describe as the zero-point field. This is where intention becomes creation, where being heals doing. The old way was to search for the cure. The new way is to remember that you are not separate from the cure. You are the frequency that healing responds to. And as you shift your awareness from the external to the internal, from lack to alignment, the illusion begins to crumble. You don't need to fight for wholeness. You only need to remember it. Imagine your inner world as a quantum mirror. Not a metaphorical one, but a living, breathing field of intelligence that responds to your every emotional frequency and thought pattern. The ancients spoke in terms of spirit and soul, and today, quantum physicists speak of the field, the observer effect, and entanglement. Though the language may differ, the truth remains consistent. Your outer life is not separate from your inner state. It is the reflection of it. We've been taught to separate our spiritual selves from our scientific understanding, but what if they are not opposites, but companions? In quantum physics, the idea that particles exist in multiple states until observed suggests that reality is not fixed, it is chosen. Likewise, in your personal life, your beliefs, assumptions, and subconscious programs are the observers that choose your experience. Where attention goes, reality grows. This is not magical thinking. It is magnetic alignment. When your internal world is coherent, when your heart and mind are in harmony, your energetic field begins to broadcast a signal that the quantum field can match. This is how synchronicities happen. This is why some people seem to flow with life while others remain in patterns of suffering. It's not luck, it's resonance. Now consider this. Most of us walk around carrying fractured energy. Our emotions are splintered by past experiences. Our thoughts are on autopilot, and our bodies are often tense with unresolved memory. In such a state, our signal is unclear, distorted. It's like trying to tune into a radio station, but all you get is static. You can't hear the guidance, you can't receive the support, and you wonder why manifestation feels impossible. But the moment you begin to turn inward with curiosity instead of control, everything begins to change. The mirror responds not to perfection, but to presence. When you become conscious of the stories you've been repeating, the wounds you've ignored, and the emotions you've suppressed, you begin to clear the static. The reflection becomes sharper. Life starts echoing a different song. Real-life examples of this are often subtle, yet profound. A woman who spent years in toxic relationships begins practicing daily self-worth affirmations, not to chase a partner, but to align with the truth of her value. Within months, her social circle shifts. She doesn't try to meet someone new. Instead, people who mirror her new frequency naturally appear. Or a man overwhelmed by chronic fatigue starts visualizing his cells vibrant with light, not to escape illness, but to speak life back into his biology. Slowly, energy returns. His breath deepens, his body listens. These shifts aren't miracles, they are mathematics. Energetic recalibration. Your reality reorganizes itself around your frequency, but you can't fake this. The quantum mirror doesn't respond to what you say you want. It reflects who you truly are, vibrationally. If you harbor shame, no vision board will override it. If you carry guilt, no affirmation can mask it. Healing begins when you face what's within without flinching. The field does not judge, it simply reflects. This is both the most liberating and the most humbling truth. You are not punished for your wounds, you are shown them, over and over, until you bring them love. Every unwanted experience is not a failure, but a feedback loop. A mirror held up to ask, are you ready to choose something different? So I ask you now, what are you broadcasting into the field? What quiet beliefs are echoing louder than your intentions? Where are you still unconsciously seeking validation, safety, or permission from outside yourself? These are not flaws. These are doorways. The more intimate you become with your inner world, the more fluently you begin to speak the language of the field. The quantum realm is not impressed by effort. It responds to coherence, to clarity, to courage, to look into the mirror and say, I am ready to see the truth of what I've been carrying, is the beginning of energetic sovereignty. And as you shift your signal, the reflection will shift. It must. That is law. If your body is the instrument, then belief is the hand that tunes it. Every thought you entertain, every emotion you suppress or express, sends a vibration through your cells. You are not just thinking, you are imprinting. And the body remembers. This is not esoteric, it's biological. Neuroplasticity, epigenetics, and psychoneuroimmunology are all scientific fields that now echo what sages have whispered for ages. The mind and body are not two, they are one, dancing together in every moment of your existence. Think about it. When you feel joy, your posture shifts, your immune system lights up, and your cells open like sunflowers in the morning. But when you are trapped in shame or fear, your breath shortens, your digestion stalls, your muscles tighten, and your heart closes. These aren't random symptoms, they are somatic feedback. Your body is speaking the language of your inner world. But here's where it gets radical. Your beliefs are not facts, they are frequencies. And those frequencies either liberate or limit the body's natural ability to heal. If, on a subconscious level, you believe you are unworthy of rest, do you notice how you always find yourself overwhelmed? If you carry the belief that healing must be hard, your body obliges. You attract protocols, teachers, and conditions that validate that belief. This isn't your fault. It's your programming. But once you recognize it, you reclaim the power to reprogram, to retune, to harmonize. The first step is awareness. Begin to observe your most persistent inner statements, not just the ones you say aloud, but the ones you quietly assume. I always get sick around this time. I never have enough energy. People like me don't recover. These phrases may feel like personal truths, but they are really emotional loops. Thought forms, echoes from childhood, from trauma, from culture. If you want to heal, you must stop identifying with them. It takes courage to listen to your inner monologue without judgment, to say, wow, I didn't realize I was still telling myself that. But once seen, these patterns begin to soften. They lose their grip. From there, you can choose a new story, a higher signal. Instead of I'm broken, try I am in a process of remembering my wholeness. Instead of I always relapse, try I am learning how to support myself differently this time. This isn't about lying to yourself. It's about aligning with possibility. And your body, being the miraculous field of intelligence that it is, responds to possibility. Real shifts happen when the nervous system feels safe enough to believe a new thought. So if affirmations feel empty, ask yourself, what would make this feel safer? Sometimes it's not about jumping to I am healed, but about softening into I am open to healing. That small shift in language can unlock massive change because it honors where you are while expanding where you're going. A woman I once worked with carried a lifelong belief that pain equaled punishment. Every time her body hurt, she spiraled into shame. No one had told her that pain was a messenger, not a sentence. When she began to greet her pain with curiosity, asking, "What do you need to express?" her relationship with her body transformed. The pain didn't vanish overnight, but her fear did. And with fear gone, the body began to unwind. She began to heal. We must remember, the body is not betraying you. It is echoing your beliefs back to you, asking you to choose again. To stop rehearsing the trauma and start rehearsing the future. To stop reinforcing the story of I am doomed and start nurturing the energy of I am learning. Where in your body are you still holding an outdated belief? Is it in your gut, clenched by fear? In your shoulders, weighed down by worthlessness? In your throat, silenced by past rejection? Your biology is not separate from your biography, but neither is it bound by it. Your cells are listening, and they are always willing to sing a new song if you teach them a different melody. And so we return to the truth. Belief is not mental, it is energetic. To heal, you don't need to try harder. You need to feel safer. And safety begins when you stop abandoning yourself in your own mind. The truth about manifesting is this: it's not about creating something new. It's about remembering something ancient within you. You're not manifesting from scratch. You're allowing what was always encoded in your being to emerge. It's not about chasing a better life, but collapsing into the timeline where you already are who you came here to be. That's not magic. That's physics. The frequency of your energy determines the signals you emit. These signals are not prayers shouted into the void. They're invitations broadcast into the field. And the field, infinite and intelligent, responds with precision. You attract not what you want, but what you believe you are safe to receive. This is the piece that so many people miss. You are not denied because you're unworthy. You are matched because you're unconscious. People say, I'm doing everything right. I'm journaling, I'm visualizing, I'm meditating, and still nothing is happening. But here's the secret. Manifestation is not about effort. It's about congruence. If a part of you is still holding on to the belief that you don't deserve love, or that success requires suffering, or that joy is fleeting and unsafe, then those beliefs emit stronger signals than your affirmations ever could. The quantum field isn't fooled by your surface intentions. It tunes into your embodied frequency. And the signal of fear will always override the whisper of hope until it is consciously transformed. So the real work of manifesting is about remembrance. It's about peeling back the layers of programming and returning to the state where you feel safe being fully you, where you can say, yes, I am worthy. Yes, I am capable. Yes, I am allowed to have this. Not as a mantra, but as a knowing in your bones. This kind of coherence sends a different vibration entirely. It doesn't beg, it doesn't grasp, it doesn't wait. It allows, it receives. Like a flower that simply opens to the sun, trusting the warmth will come. Think of a time when something wonderful came into your life almost effortlessly. A job offer, a friendship, a moment of peace that caught you by surprise. Were you trying hard in that moment, or were you in a state of openness? That's the difference. Manifestation is not a transaction. It's a remembrance of who you are when you are not in resistance. But what causes resistance? Unprocessed pain, guilt, the feeling that we have to earn everything. Somewhere along the line, many of us were taught that being loved, healthy, successful meant being good, obedient, or exceptional. So we perform, we strive, we hustle, and we exhaust ourselves trying to deserve what is already ours by birthright. It's not your job to be good enough for your dreams. It's your job to align with the version of you that already lives them. And that alignment begins not in action, but in being. A man once shared with me that every time he started a new project, he would secretly expect it to fail. Not because he lacked skill, but because he carried a subconscious belief that he was destined to struggle. It wasn't until he sat down one evening and wrote a letter, not to the universe, but to his younger self, that he finally saw where that belief was born. A childhood filled with unpredictable chaos had taught him to fear ease, so he released it, not with anger, but with compassion. And slowly, as he began to believe that life didn't have to be hard, his projects began to flourish. Clients came, opportunities flowed, not because he worked harder, but because he became energetically available to receive. This is the nature of quantum healing. It doesn't ask you to do more. It asks you to become more true, to align your energy field with your essence, not your fear, to shed the lies you've absorbed and return to the you beneath the noise. So let me ask you, what are you still trying to earn that you were always worthy of? Where are you waiting for permission to become who you already are? These are not just emotional questions, they are energetic keys. Because the moment you remember your power, the field does too, and reality shifts to reflect it. There comes a moment on every healing journey when you realize that change doesn't happen in the future. It happens now, in the stillness, in the breath, in the choice to do things differently, even when no one is watching. Quantum healing is not a destination, it's a devotion. A sacred practice of inner recalibration. The real magic is not in how fast you manifest, but in how fully you return to yourself. To recalibrate is to tune back into your original signal, the one you had before the world taught you to mistrust your intuition, hide your emotions, and seek approval. This is not about becoming someone new. It's about remembering someone ancient. The you who never doubted their worth. The you who spoke with the universe in symbols and dreams. The you who didn't just believe in magic, but embodied it. This return to self begins in silence, in stillness, in the decision to pause and listen, not for answers, but for presence. In the quiet, you begin to feel the field again, the quantum sea of potential surrounding and permeating you. And from this space, true healing begins. Not because you force it, but because you allow it. But to allow, you must create inner conditions of safety. Your nervous system must feel supported, not shamed. This is why practices like breathwork, meditation, somatic release, and grounding are not optional. They are foundational. They speak the language of the body, which speaks the language of the field. You cannot think your way into wholeness. You must feel your way there. A woman I know began setting aside 5 minutes every morning, not to fix herself, but to simply place her hand on her heart and whisper, "I'm listening." That's it. No agenda, no demands. Within weeks, she began to cry more, sleep deeper, and laugh louder. Her body began to trust her again. Why? Because she created space for truth to emerge. And when truth is welcomed, energy flows. You don't need to overhaul your life to shift your reality. You just need to become consistent in your alignment. 5 minutes of authentic presence outweigh 5 hours of frantic effort. Because coherence is not a measure of time, it's a measure of truth. So ask yourself, what small sacred practice can I commit to, not to prove my worth, but to anchor my frequency? Maybe it's watching the sunrise with reverence. Maybe it's dancing in your living room with no one watching. Maybe it's journaling not to fix, but to feel. These aren't tasks. They're doorways. Every act of alignment opens a new portal in the field. And over time, the external begins to catch up with the internal. People shift around you. Opportunities appear. The right words come through at the right moment. Not because you controlled the outcome, but because you became the outcome. This is the paradox. When you stop trying to heal and start becoming whole, healing happens. When you stop reaching and start remembering, manifestation flows. When you stop performing and start listening, the field responds. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are simply being invited to come home to yourself. So take a breath. Drop into your body. Whisper to the field, "I'm ready." Not to chase, not to plead, but to receive what has always been waiting for your yes. And if you're wondering where to begin, begin here. Begin now. Not with a plan, but with presence. Your wholeness is not something to seek. It is something to remember. And every time you return to the truth of who you are, the universe celebrates. Because when one soul remembers its power, the whole field begins to heal. You've now taken the first steps through a map that was never outside you, but imprinted in your very essence. A map to wholeness that doesn't ask for perfection, only presence. Quantum healing is not about escaping reality, but about consciously weaving your energy, emotion, and belief into a reality that reflects your deepest truth. You are not here to be saved. You are here to remember you've always had the power to shift, to realign, to become. If these words stirred something within you, if a part of you is whispering, "Yes, this is what I've always known," then let that whisper grow. Share this message, leave a comment, subscribe if you'd like to journey deeper. But more than that, take this into your life, into your mornings, into your breath. Because every moment is another chance to return to the sacred place within you where healing begins and miracles unfold.